Welcome to another episode of the STR Sisterhood. I'm your host, Stacey St. John, and I just want to say thank you for inviting me into your home today. Now, before we dive into this conversation with our esteemed guest, I want to share a quote that I recently read that resonated with me. And it says, "No matter how often you fall from grace, what matters most is how many times you get up." Love those words. And they come to us from actress Taraji P. Henson. Now, in this episode, we are sitting down with Jalene Smith and hearing all about her journey into the world of short-term rentals and how she is delivering next-level hospitality to her guests. Take notes, my friends, because Jalene is doing some rockin' awesome stuff that you can implement in your business as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into my conversation with Jalene. So today we are here with Jalene Smith, and we are going to talk all things about her short-term rental journey. Jalene, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's first start and have you just introduce yourself and share with our audience a little bit about who you are and where you live.
My name is Jalene, and I live in Denver, Colorado. I'm just a normal person who got into the short-term rental space in 2020. We did long-term rentals for probably a decade before that, and had kind of slowly sold and changed and, how everybody does. And then 2020, we bought a place, like a second home in the mountains, with another family, and had just sort of decided we were going to rent it out maybe once a month just to kind of help pay for the renovations. Because as a lot of Colorado mountain houses are, and what I've noticed since I've invested in Michigan too, it's kind of like 1990s has thrown up all over the house. So we needed to get rid of that a little bit. And so we were like, all right, well, let's just rent it out once a month. And so I was like, all right, how do we do this? And if it's once a month, I want to feel like I'm contributing. So let me just pour myself into learning how to do this, because it was 30% for a property manager. So I was like, well, I'm going to figure this out, and surely I can do this if it's one time a month. And just started listening to podcasts and just got really into it. And of course, I haven't sort of looked back from that. But anyways, what happened there was, we bought this house with them, and that was, supposed to be like a temporary, not a temporary, like a second home.
Yeah.
In a place.
Vacation, a place for you to relax and enjoy. Yeah.
Exactly. So having that second home during COVID with a family that we isolated with, going up there very regularly. We obviously didn't rent it out a lot. And then my husband and I were like, wow, this is kind of fun to do. And, since they don't want to rent it out often, let's do this again on our own. And so we bought a place down the street in another town called Frisco. And it's just like a little small 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo. And then we did that so that we could renovate it however we chose, and decorate it however we chose, and rent it out as much as we wanted. And kind of just kept drinking the Kool-Aid,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I really felt such a passion for short-term rental designing, for the guest and kind of what they seem to want. I am a nurse. I'm a nurse practitioner at the Children's Hospital here. And I think, and I was always an ICU nurse and have always been involved in heart transplant, bone marrow transplant, liver transplant, something where you're always a part of people's most vulnerable periods of time in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of creating those memories for people to not be so hard.
Yeah.
And they won't forget that. And the relationships that I still have with a lot of those families, they're not going to forget the time either they learned their child was going to get a new heart, or if they left this earth. And that's a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as a nurse practitioner, and having all of those experiences of being a part of these people's memories that were unfortunately like sometimes some of the worst memories of their life.
Mm-hmm.
Hosting gave me this opportunity that I didn't even realize I felt so passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to be a part of people's memories that they would always have. I remember the times when I would go with my grandparents to an RV park and go on these sand dunes and stay in different places. Like, and when people get to come together and be a part of like these family memories that are made, like I definitely do not take that lightly, and it genuinely feels like such an honor to me.
Yeah. I totally agree. When I first got into short-term rentals, I was looking at this from a real estate investment perspective. Like you, I was in long-term rentals. I got started during COVID times. And our reasoning for getting started was, hey, there are all these eviction moratoriums popping up. At least with a short-term rental, somebody's got to pay in order to get in the front door, right? So when we first started buying, though, and hosting people, I, like you, fell in love with the fact that in some small way, we got to be a part of someone's vacation, right? Someone's joy, someone's magic that they're making together with their family or their spouse or their daughter, and that I can't even describe the feeling of, not only fulfillment, but gratitude that I have the opportunity to do that. Now, those people don't remember us as hosts necessarily 30 years down the road, but they remember the time that they had together. And I think it's so special to be a part of that.
And sometimes I think they do remember us, Stacey, because I get Christmas cards actually from this one couple that stayed at that one condo for a month. And I get a Christmas card or like a little like random text, and that means so much. And there's actually somebody I used to co-host up until 2 days ago for a friend of mine who had left the country, and she just needed somebody in the country. And I think we both mutually decided like, hey, I want you to be able to do this, and that you can have good self-service where you are, and you can make more money if you do this yourself again. And so anyways, there is a person coming to her place on the 2nd. Is that today? That's today.
Mm-hmm.
And she lost her husband to cancer at 57 in May. And she mentioned this, in our dialogue on Airbnb. And I was like, we will do whatever. Let me tell you a little bit about this place. And she's like, yeah, we used to have a place around there, et cetera. So she knew the area. And when she accepted the booking, I saw that she went to Florida State University, which is where I went. And so I mentioned that to her, and she's like, oh, that's where my husband and I met. And we are supposed to go to Dublin to when Florida State plays in Dublin. And now, my daughter's going to go with me instead. And so it was just like so special. So I got on Etsy, found this map of Tallahassee, which is where Florida State is, and ordered this thing from Etsy and then framed it and brought it up to the cleaner's house so that she could, bring it over to them today for a check-in. And it's like, that makes me feel special, right? Like that, to me, that's also a selfish thing to do because my bucket's filled as I am able to give them something that was them, but it also is a little part of, our collective.
I love hearing you say that. And I want to actually dig into that a little bit further because probably for many people listening, they've experienced maybe not something exactly like that, but someone shares a little snippet or, hey, we're from XYZ place, and you discover commonalities or things that you have in common with your guests. What was it that gave you the inspiration? Hey, I'm going to get on Etsy and I'm going to look for something. Talk to me about like behind the scenes in your mind. What sparked that?
Yeah. Well, number one, my favorite book probably is Unreasonable Hospitality. But I think that what I thought about was Florida State. And then I got on to look for maybe an ornament. And then I thought, well, maybe they're Jewish. Like, I don't know. I was just like going down like a rabbit hole of things. And then I looked for things that would have been that game in the ticket. So I was just kind of like looking and thinking of different options. And then when I saw the map, to me, I don't know, it jumped out at me. And it was sort of like, you find your way home. You know? And that just felt kind of special. And I don't know, then it was like, okay, that's it.
That's amazing. And so may I ask, how much did you spend for this map?
I think I might have spent $40.
Okay.
But that's okay.
And so
and then I put the frame in, that was $30. And the owner of the house, shared that with me. So I don't actually think it was that bad, No. I mean, I guess when you think relatively speaking, because somebody in my Michigan house recently, they were getting married. And so obviously when they spent a week in Michigan at a place that sleeps 16, the total for the week over 4th of July is significantly different. So spending a few $100s to get a bottle of Vouv or a charcuterie board and, something different that, there's a percentage, I think. Sometimes people look at for what they would maybe gift in certain situations. So maybe for this small little condo, that is a little bit different, but I don't know. The connection to Florida State, there was a little bit more there, and the loss of her husband, it just felt different.
Yeah. And so is that a standard practice that you have with each reservation? You are taking a portion of that money and purchasing something for the guest. Talk to me a little bit about your process for that, if you will.
I have a goal to put actually something in play for every single person that comes and stays. But having a full-time job also, I feel like I'm constantly just treading water. Surprisingly, I did just take a little hiatus from work this summer to spend some time with my kids and kind of focus on this a little bit and get some systems in place. I was a part of Sarah and Annette's Thanks for Visiting mastermind. And, Sarah, as you can expect, she's like very into SOPs and so outside of my like nursing medicine mind. So that is definitely an area I need to work on. But that being said, I would like to have items in each one, because now we own 2 short-term rentals that are not the same that we had when we first started. We kind of bought, renovated, rented for a while, and then we've sold off in 1031 different properties. Now the properties we have are just 2 large. They sleep 12. Michigan place is 8 bedrooms, but it can only sleep 16 for like their township regulations. So that I want to have in my owner's closets items that I know won't, expire, if you will.
Right.
And I can kind of guide my cleaners for like, what? I just found out it's these people's anniversary, or they're celebrating. One time they were spreading ashes on a mountain behind one of the houses, and if there were just items there that I knew could then be bagged in like my greatest bag and placed out, and I now have branded little notes to leave for somebody or leave for those guests. Then they can just handwrite a little note to them, and I can just say what I'd like to do. That is sort of like the goal. But a lot of times it's more, I found out their kids love these certain Albanese gummy bears, and so maybe I'll just have it dropped off on the front porch or something after the fact if there was a fan didn't work or or something.
Sure. No, I love the idea of stocking different types of items within your owner's closet because, to your point, you can go in depending on what the occasion is and pull from your inventory, shall we say. And it also would allow you to control costs, right? To be able to say, all right, I'm going to purchase items within this budget range and then, allocate it towards that reservation. I love the concept of that. And I love that you've got branded bags and branded cards because, again, those are all the little things that are part of a guest experience that helps them to remember you and helps them to book directly with you if they've come through an Airbnb, or a Vrbo, booking.com, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes it special, right? It's maybe one of my love languages is gift giving or a desire to be a gift giver.
Yeah. I love also that you said that it's selfish because in a very strange way, I talk about the same thing about what I do. I have a lot of people, as you might imagine, who have shared feedback with me over the years and gratitude, but I am actually grateful for them, right? And just like you are probably grateful for your guest to be able to have the opportunity, right? To leave them a special gift. It makes each day joyful, right? And when you give to other people.
Yeah. Because it does feel a little bit selfish sometimes to want that feedback from guests. Like when they get into the house and they say, we just got here. It is gorgeous. Thank you so much. Or thank you so much for we have in one of my places, we have a popcorn machine. And so I have these little bags with a note on the back with a bag of popcorn, bag of kernels so that they can use it and then know how to use the machine in there. And so they make a comment, oh, this was such a huge hit with the kids. And that is, it does feel a little bit selfish. But I think that that's okay because it keeps me going and it keeps me really passionate about this.
Yeah.
And you had asked me before about my nursing career. And, as a nurse, you spend so much time with the family, especially as an ICU nurse. It's just you and them, and you're just getting to know them. As a nurse practitioner, you're removed a little bit because you're managing many patients outside of it. I mean, depending on, of course, the role that you play. But that the connection with some families varies within different jobs that I've had. And my current job, God, the people that I work with are so amazing. The department that I work for is just absolutely incredible. But I don't have that one-on-one patient contact as much for extended periods of time, whether it be because there's so much more charting that has to be done. Medicine has evolved so much from COVID. And that part is not my favorite. But it's I get to be filled the way that I need to be filled in this short-term rental space. And I'm not about doors. I just feel like I'm a normal person, like so many of probably of your listeners that just wants the short-term rental space to be an incredible community and do good things for these people that are spending sometimes a lot of money with us, Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. I love your heart. And I agree. All right. I want to ask you, from your perspective, how have you taken your skill sets as a nurse and what you've learned in the nursing industry and applied it to your short-term rental business? I have done that from my corporate leadership experience. I've taken my corporate leadership experience and applied it to my short-term rental business. I'm just curious, how have you done that with nursing or have you?
Yeah, nobody's ever asked me that before. It's what's interesting is the first thing that popped into my head as you were asking that question was doing more listening and less talking. I'm not a very good listener. I feel probably just with friends and my family members maybe, but that's the first thing I thought of is when they reach out to you and they are upset by something or just like asking a question. I guess you don't know their tone of voice, you know? Somebody last night messaged and was like, your EV charger is a 4-prong, not a 3-prong. And in my head and actually out loud to my husband, I was like, there's a picture of it in my listing, you know, like you initially get like, because all I want to do is please the masses, right? And so you get like, but there is a picture. And it's like, you get kind of like, and it's like, and then how do you use this coffee machine? And I'm like, okay. And so it's more just like, I hear this. Let me just take a moment because they might not have been saying, it's like, you know, when you text somebody, you don't understand their tone of voice of the content and things. So to me, that is sort of listening. It's like taking a moment, taking a breath and just feeling like, I'm so sorry. You know, that picture wasn't clear. Is anything that you think that I could do differently? And in that listing photo, and in the second drawer, there is a instruction manual. Make a few jokes about like, you know, I drink chai. I don't drink coffee. Unfortunately, I don't really feel like an adult because I don't drink coffee. But you know, and then I just try to say like, okay, and we have a French press, a pour over, a single cup, a regular drip, and that fancy DeLong dye or however you say that pot thing. You know, this is my problem. I try to please the masses, and so if you can't figure it out now with the instruction manual, good thing I got 25 others for you to choose from. You know, maybe like make light of it like a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's my point is it's like, listen, and then not come at them.
Yeah. No, and I totally agree with you. I think a lot of people, it's very easy as humans to feel defensive in those scenarios. And I love your thought that, hey, I'm going to take a moment to compose myself or, you know, reframe the question or not interpret tone if it comes through a text message. I also find that having the same approach when we're responding to our reviews is critical.
100%. And that was something that I feel like I was taught from day one. You respond to those reviews like you are talking to your future guest.
Absolutely.
And so I feel very strongly about that. And you know, there's a lot of things, you know, the word imposter is used and thrown around quite a bit. And I am definitely guilty of feeling that imposter syndrome, as I'm sure a lot of people are. But I will say, like, I think Tanya Rooney, my little friend, she would be so proud of me to like compliment myself about something. But I definitely think that is probably my strength. I think that, I think my hospitality is like pretty on point, and I feel pretty good about that. And it feels good to feel like you are making other people happy. Yeah. And I just feel like I might be good at that.
I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say you're probably not just pretty good. I think you're probably pretty amazing, right? At that. And I feel like I'm really intrigued. If you don't mind me asking, I'm intrigued about the concept of imposter syndrome. May I ask, what have you struggled with in that? Like, what have you felt like an imposter with?
Well, asking to be interviewed on your podcast is maybe a start. I don't know, right? I'm not gonna be like, I've grown up. Listen, in the last 4 years, right? A little bit of a podcast whore. Like, I love listening to podcasts. I am like, bring it on. Tell me. Let me binge listen. I mean, that's what I would do. We would drive to the mountains, which is maybe an hour to 2, depending on the time of year and traffic. All I do is listen to podcasts. Like, my kids know the jingles on some of these. Like, it's like really funny. But so, and I would hear these things, and there's definitely times when I can listen to a podcast and I will be like, oh, it's like reassuring, if you will. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm already doing that. All right, I feel good. Like kind of like it kind of like pats me on the back a little bit, and then there's a little tidbit of information that you get at another time where you're like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. And I need to make sure I'm doing that. And so I just feel that I can never stop learning other people's experiences. And so the imposter syndrome, I feel, is when I'm listening to all of these other people and they talk about doors or scaling, I think I often feel like I'm not doing something fast enough, or I haven't been in this. I don't even think that it's been in this space long enough, because I genuinely feel a lot of these influencers, a lot of these people who have had the courage to start a podcast or to start a coaching group or something. It's not that they are better or braver or better. Well, they're probably braver, 100% braver, but maybe not necessarily better. They operate different. And so it's taking me a while to just understand that it's like, that's not my area of genius, and that is okay. But I feel like I'm going to find the areas that I feel are like true to me and that I feel the most comfortable in, and give people a good experience, Yeah.
I am just going to share with you lovingly that I would definitely say that it is really important never to measure your progress by someone else's ruler. Right. And to your point, you see other people doing things, and it's very easy to judge ourselves. It's very easy to say, oh, this person's doing that and I'm not doing that. So in some way, shape, or form, I'm lesser. And I believe that we are all meant for greatness on this planet. I believe that each of our journeys are different and unique, and that's on purpose, right? And so I love that you have evolved and have come to realize what your zone of genius is and have come to own that, right? And I'm just going to challenge you moving forward. If you ever have the thoughts of imposter syndrome or, again, measuring your progress by someone else's maybe level of hospitality, I'm going to say be very intentional about getting that limiting belief out of your brain immediately. Right. And I literally, when I do that, because everybody does it, it's human nature, right? You're not doing anything that anyone else on this planet hasn't done. I literally think about shutting off that portion of my brain with that thought, like physically, like I envision a wall going up and it just has to be gone. Right. So I don't know if that matters at all, but, I think you're pretty darn amazing, girl, and don't shortchange yourself.
Yeah, I thank you. I think that it's like baby steps in some areas, right? Like when I did travel nursing with a group of friends in like 2004, and man, what an incredible experience. And we used to like always joke and say, do something scary every day of your life, where we'd like run across the street before the cars came. I mean, like you're like jaywalking. It's like, okay, I want to get arrested. But that is probably something that I will always continue to say, do something scary every day of your life. And so saying yes to, putting myself out here on podcast, that is a do something scary every day of your life. And Stacey, as you know, right, I've met you before various conferences. Like there's a network in this in this short-term rental space that is like so special.
Mm-hmm.
And having a network has been something also in these last 4 years that you have a group text, you're meeting people at conferences, you meet the same people at that conference, you go to the conference with them because you've met them before. And it's so special to have a community. And it genuinely, to me, does not feel like competition. And I kind of would like coin this little hashtag. I'm going to say I invented the hashtag. Community, not competition, because to me, that is, it makes it feel just really special. And having a group of people in this space that truly understands.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to have like your mom tribe or your like hospital tribe, but like to also have people, women also in short-term rental space, and continuing to be in rooms with people that challenge you to want to be better. It's just really freaking cool.
It's really freaking cool. I couldn't agree more. And I totally believe in my heart, there is enough business to go around this world, right? There should never be a time where even in our own communities with other like geographies, with other short-term rental owners, build that community locally as well, because you can absolutely help each other and lean on each other and share resources and our advice. I have had multiple occasions where something has happened with a property and we had to put a guest in another unit. And I have reached out to other property managers and short-term rental owners and hosts in my community, and they have helped me time and time again. And I do the same for them, right?
Yeah.
And so we're all made uniquely. We all have our own fingerprint, shall we say, on our businesses. And so lean into your uniqueness, but don't ever let there be a barrier to other people in our space, right? I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I want to ask you, you mentioned your favorite book was or is Unreasonable Hospitality. I actually read that last year when I was in Cancun on vacation. I also love that book. I'm curious, what specifically resonated with you? Why do you feel like it really spoke to you?
Because he gave these experiences to people that they maybe weren't expecting, and kind of went above and beyond, like bringing the hot dog in off of the street and just putting it onto a plate, right? Or the beach to their table. It's like those little things that I felt resonated, and just with me. And I'm sure that there are a lot of great parts in a lot of other books too. That like we just finished this other book I'm in the short-term rental book club, and I was like, you know what, I didn't resonate with that book so much because it was a lot of younger, I'm 45 years old. I am not at that stage in my life, and so it's harder for me to read. That might be the same way for Unreasonable Hospitality. Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The one thing that I think was really transparent in Unreasonable Hospitality is that there was always a proactive approach, right, to hospitality. Always a proactive approach. What little nugget can we latch onto to do something amazing for someone else? And I think we can do that in hospitality. I think we can do that in life, right? Look for opportunities to help other people. Look for opportunities to pay it forward and share your knowledge. And I promise you, as we've just talked about, correct me if you think I'm wrong, it feels good. Like it makes your heart happy, right?
And that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. I also think unreasonable hospitality also resonated because, and I don't know his exact words, but the feeling I got was the back of the house, the front of the house, everybody's role is equally important. And so my turnover team is, I really mostly speak to my inspector.
Mhm.
I'm going to say that's something that I learned early on in my like podcast education and initial groups was having this inspector. And I know not everybody does that. So I have an inspector and she actually has the cleaners.
Mhm.
And so I don't speak to, at one house, I don't speak to those cleaners, but I speak to like my inspector.
Mhm.
And she is a unicorn. It is like her family, I could not do what I get to do if it was not for her.
Mhm.
And I regularly ask her, like, okay, well, when I'm doing these checklists on Turno, how do you think it would best fit the girls? Like,
Mhm.
do they want it all under bedrooms? Do they want it all under bathrooms? Do they want it individually done? I don't want to have a million different checklist items. I don't want them to feel that they have to be on their phone all the time. What's going to work best for your group? And that is going to be different from my Michigan team. And I had my cleaner in Michigan say to me the other day, I just want to thank you for being such an awesome host. The girls, we all really love cleaning your place. You take so much pride in your house, and that is very welcome. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so special. I didn't even get paid from you. You pay me. And it's like, that is such a goal too. I want a team that takes pride in my places because I have so much pride for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that comes by way of, to your point, taking pride in your property, having a beautiful space. And, I'll be the first person to say, you, as a host, I think it's more important than ever to have a space that's beautifully designed. But when your team recognizes how much you care, it gives them a sense of motivation and desire to care as well.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that you show tremendous leadership qualities when you are asking your inspector what is going to be best for the team, right? Because it helps them know that you value their opinions, you value their work, and your job as the leader of your business is to make things easier for them, remove roadblocks for them. So I love that. I think it's so incredibly important to get that 360 feedback from our team members. So kudos to you.
Yeah, thanks. It's not always roses, right? But it is like, a way of just trying to navigate and keep your head up and try to keep everybody else's head up with you.
You mentioned it's not always roses. I totally agree. I'm curious, what has been one of the biggest challenges you've experienced in your journey so far, and how did you navigate it?
Oh gosh, there's probably a lot of challenges other than, money and finances and trying to, the first thing that comes to mind. Even though the homes that we have are lifestyle assets also for us, I really struggle going to those homes and vacationing because I do not know how to relax in them. And so, a lot of people are like, oh, it's easier if it's, close by you, whatever, and you have to like go somewhere. When I do go to the other day, I went to my Silverthorne house. And I went there to bring a bunch of stock, and I was like, it had already been cleaned, but there was little things that I was like, why are we not stocking the creamers? And is this too, am I asking for too many things to stock? Do I need to have like numbers? Do I need to have checklists for those? The sugar. Oh, why is there like still coffee ground behind like this thing? And are we it? Is it because, should I put it back on the counter? Is the coffee bar not a good idea? Right. And you like just go through everything. And so I literally only needed to be there for an hour to drop stuff off and to, here's the other thing. I bought a crib, like a baby Leto origami, like mini crib to keep in the house because a guest said, oh, I booked because I saw this crib. They didn't see that it said for an extra charge. And so I decided, okay, the big crib was too difficult to take up, take down every single time. So I'm going to buy one of those baby Leto mini cribs. So I went there to put it up because a family, it's like, you know what? Just put this here. So I should have been there for like an hour, but instead I'm walking through every space and I'm like, okay, should I do this different? Should I, like that's kind of the hard part. So that to me, I find to be a big challenge. Comparing, like you say, I think that can sometimes be a challenge and being in your head. And then because I've done medicine for 25 years, numbers, Excel, Google Sheets, like I literally learned Google Drive and Google Sheets in the last 4 years, like being in this space. And because I've never needed to do that stuff. And so but surprisingly, I find a lot of like challenge in, and these numbers and how could I get this down or this up, or I could have more money, for this little area. And it's kind of like a fun little game of Tetris. And it's because I've always worked for a major hospital, nonprofit usually, my salary's never changed really. And being in this space, like there's this like ability to sort of do things differently. And it's, it's like dipping your toe in a little bit. So that's a little bit of a challenge for me, I think, to be like, think bigger.
Yeah.
Think bigger.
Amen, sister. Amen. All right. I want to move to the lightning round. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to answer with the very first thing that comes to mind. First question is, where is your favorite place to vacation?
Well, I've clearly just said not at my own property. although tomorrow I'm going to my Michigan house for the week for my in-laws, for like all of our family reunions. So I'm kind of excited for that. Stacey, I don't have a favorite place. People have said, where would you go again? And I've always said I wouldn't go to the same place twice because there's so many places out there. So I'm going to go with, it is a feeling that I have at certain places. I can remember the feelings of being in Tuscany in this like castle where a friend got married, and like the sheer curtains just like going in the wind, and you can kind of smell the vineyard. I'd felt that feeling in Santa Barbara, with when the temperature is not too cold and it's not too hot, and you just sort of feel like this like homeostasis, and it just feels peaceful. So I'd felt that feeling in Santa Barbara. I'd felt it in the Finger Lakes when I was up there at that winery, or that wine region, I should say. Being in Rome and walking around and having like just so much architecture that has given a feeling. Yeah. The feeling of maybe when you're just sitting and you can hear the ocean and you just feel like peaceful. And I think you can find that in a lot of different places, depending on maybe what your body needs at that time of vacation.
That's awesome. I've never heard it described like that. And I love that.
Or in a place. The perfect place.
What's one place you've never been that you want to visit?
Oh, Croatia, Greece, like that kind of vibe I've been wanting recently.
I have a lot of people say Greece.
Yep.
All right.
I grew up in a Greek community. So I'm kind of in Florida. And so I kind of have always been interested in going there.
Yeah.
Need to make that happen.
There you go. All right. What's one thing you know now that you wished you knew when you were starting out in the world of short-term rentals?
Can it be positive?
Of course.
I think that having your network is probably the biggest strength. I mean, there's one thing to have a coach or a mentor, but I think having a network in that space is so crucial, because you just get to see so many different people's way of doing something. And there's many ways to skin a cat, right? But it's nice to hear how a lot of people do it. And then you can kind of make your own tweaks on what works for everybody else.
I totally agree. And as a coach and a mentor, I find it equally as valuable to have a network, because there are always experiences that I am learning from each and every day, and getting other people's perspectives and how they would handle a situation, and using that as a learning opportunity for everyone, I think is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Next question is, what is the next question? It's escaping me hello, Stacey. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Well, first thing that comes to mind, never measure your progress by somebody else's ruler. How you like that little piece of advice?
I love it. That's so funny. That's good. All right, last question. What's one thing and or person that you're grateful for today?
I mean, I would love to say my grandpa just losing him today. I think that to avoid crying, I'm going to say my husband, because also my grandpa was my husband's a favorite part of that side of the family. But my husband, I would say, I think in the last 4 years has been one of the most special periods of time for our marriage, to do things together, to renovate homes together, to do this, I design, he can renovate. And then the trust that he has put in me over time, and being able to build this little business together, and have him trust my pivot, my action. I think that's been pretty special.
So cool. So cool. Jalene, if someone is interested in learning more about you or checking out any of your properties, where is the best place for them to find you online?
Well, I have my website is the nest-collective.com. And then that's my Instagram as well, as the nest_collective. So whoever has the nest-collective, man, they can come out.
There you go. Thank you so much for being here. This was so fun.
Thank you. Nice to see your face.
You as well. Now, before you go, I want to give a quick shout out to some of the amazing women inside the Female Short-Term Rental Investors Facebook group. Just a few days ago, Cassandra Kressel posted, "Hello, all. We're just starting out. We want to provide shower gel, shampoo, and conditioner in our bathroom dispensers. Are these products ridiculously expensive, or am I looking in the wrong places? Hoping to find 1-gallon refill bottles." Well, so far, 37 women have jumped in and shared their feedback. Abby Netterville says, "I've had luck locally at stores like Ollie's, TJ Maxx, and Home Goods. Otherwise, Amazon for sure, or possibly Costco." And Elizabeth Carlson says she buys Ginger Lily on Amazon. Kim Fitzpatrick says, "I used to use Public Goods in my homes, but after personally using it and not feeling like my hair was getting clean, I switched to Ginger Lilies in the 1-gallon jugs." I hope that helps. Thank you to these amazing women who have commented, and also Cassandra. Thank you for the question. And with that, that wraps up this episode. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and I will see you again very soon.